Ellie.
What?
Tell them that Ellie is the little girl who broke your fucking finger!
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to It Can't Be For Nothing, our Last of Us review. Thanks for checking out Project Potter, guys. My name is Kyle, your host. Guys, we're reviewing every episode of HBO's The Last of Us. This is the penultimate episode, guys, so we have just one more left of Season 1 before we go into Season 2, which is my favorite game of all time. If you haven't seen the channel before, guys, what we do is go through my favorite scenes from the episode, and I kind of match up usually the game versus the show moments that kind of tie in one for one. I scored 10. That's pretty much it. So, guys, let's go. This was the episode where we meet David's crew, and Troy gets to play his right-hand man. He obviously gets the cleaver at the end there, which is great. And Troy talked in the post-show how, he's like, oh, I thought I was going to get, a clicker or a side character. And he's like, it's so cool that, Ellie gets to stab him, and he gets to, go down the wall and bleed out. And I was hoping for more from Troy in this episode. The guy who voiced Joel in the game doesn't use his Joel voice. Rendition of it, dude. It was normal Troy, and I love Troy, but I thought he looked a little rough in this one. It was an interesting choice, and I know Neil gave him a big part. I just think that with Troy's talent and considering, how much he means to the Last of Us franchise, that I wish he would have had fun with that and had him talk to Joel, even if it was a normal conversation of him and then Joel talking, him and Pedro talking, I should say. And then he dips into his Joel voice for a second, or he makes fun of him or something. That would have been great. And I don't know, it might not have fit the tone of the show, but I just thought that they could have done more with that. So, Troy, I love you, buddy, but I was expecting more from a Troy Baker episode of The Last of Us. Kind of a microcosm for this episode, guys, where this is a good episode, but not a great episode. I will say, though, Bella Ramsey, dude. Bella Ramsey. Unbelievable. I mean, the whole scene where she's in the restaurant with David, I thought it was weird how it, caught on fire, and I don't remember in the game how it catches on fire, but, Ellie throws a torch or something, and then it catches the curtain, and then David looks at it and doesn't even try to get an extinguisher or anything. He just kind of is well, I guess this place is going up in flames. And this David, I think, was a little too nice. And I know I saw people online being oh, he's creepier than the game David. Dude, nothing is creepier than Nolan North's David. I wish that we got Nolan North in this as a side character or his voice or something. David, I thought, was a little too caring, and I know that we get that cage scene, which is great. He's trying to convince Ellie to join them. He finds out that they're cannibals, and he's well, no one knows that we're eating human. He's only a few people know, but we haven't told the public. And I thought this was really cool because in the game it's heavily implied. I mean, there's literally an arm that falls off or something, and Ellie figures it out. But they never ask oh, are you, do your people know that you're eating human? Why are you guys cannibals? Stuff like that. But obviously David, and the group is saying they're hungry and they're losing faith. And this David was oh, I was a teacher, now I'm a preacher. And Ellie's why'd you do that? Because it fucking rhymed. And he's yeah. But I didn't think this David was as menacing as the game David. And he wasn't as creepy. And I thought he was actually pretty helpful and a pretty nice guy. And I would have liked for him to be a little more menacing when he was walking around chasing Ellie. The scene was great when he's standing there and it's just flames all around him. I love how Ellie was going through and she was literally sneaking around. I was they do a really good job of emulating the gameplay. But I just didn't think that this David was super evil. I was I wish this David was a real piece of garbage. And we get that scene where he slaps the child and everything, but I didn't really feel it. What I did feel is Bella Ramsey's performance when she goes, Ellie, and he's come again. And she's Ellie's the one who broke your fucking finger. And I was oh my God, dude, so good. And, then he's what'd you say? Tiny little pieces? But it wasn't Nolan delivered that line so well. And I know it's not one for one, but speaking of one for one guys and adaptations, because that's what the show is, it was really interesting. And I was a little disappointed to see that Ellie, we get that incredible scene, guys, where Ellie just goes ham and just destroys David's face. And in the game is so tragic and sad and emotional and powerful. And then Joel comes up behind her and he stops her. He turns around, and that's when he's I got you, baby girl. He still said, I got you, baby girl. And it was very touching, but it was so weird for me that Ellie kills David and then stops on her own. And then she just walks outside, and 2 seconds later, Joel just happened to be walking around the building. And he's oh, hey, and it was still a nice moment. It was still a powerful moment. And when he says, I got you, baby girl, that was great. But I was I felt so weird that she walked out and then Joel was just there. And I'm dude, it would have been much more impactful, I think, if Joel stopped her, because I'm watching her, you know, go back and forth with the blade, and I'm like, here we go. We're like, Joel's gonna be here any second. Kept it faithful until that point, and then they just were like, just walk outside, and Joel's gonna be there. And I was like, that seemed like a miss for me, dude. And I didn't mention that Troy gets to shoot Ellie, and I was like, something about game Joel taking down show Ellie feels wrong to me. Nice little moment for Troy, but just I think a good episode, or maybe an okay episode, but I think it's one of their weaker ones of the season. And I'd say if I had to give it a score, guys, probably like an 8.1, which isn't a bad episode by any means, and I still enjoyed it, but it did feel a little rushed, which is strange because I had a lot to cover in the game, of course, and I think they've done a really good job with the pacing, but this one did feel kind of going through at a brisk pace, and I was like, I wish this was like a little, you know, carried out more, but I almost forgot. We get the interrogation scene with Joel, which is so good, dude, and actually my favorite part of the episode where, you know, that scene is so powerful, and that's when you see like the monster that's inside of Joel. And Pedro, I thought, just brought the heat on this one, dude, where he stabs the knife into the guy's leg and then twists it, and then he goes, you're going to tell me with the knife, you're going to point where we are and where your little resort is. And then he points at both, and then he stabs the guy. And then the guy behind him is like, what the hell, man? He told you what he wanted to do. And he goes, yeah, I know. I believe him. And then he kills the guy, and it's like, that moment is so powerful in the game, and I thought they did an excellent job. So Pedro really was a monster in that one. So I think the highlight of the episode for me. As I mentioned it before, my favorite character is Ellie. Bella Ramsey, man. She just continues to impress me. And she's even saying lines, and I mentioned this a few episodes, guys, or maybe early in the season, that she's even saying lines just like Ashley now. Like, it sounds like her. I don't even know how that's possible, but she's just nailing everything. And she is, I think, by far and away the star of the show. And it's funny because going in, we knew that she was probably going to be pretty good because she was really good on Game of Thrones. And everyone's like, well, if there's anyone that I trust, like, it's Bella because she was really great. But she didn't look like Ellie, and people were really concerned. And she's just blown everyone away, I think. And I think if there are any doubts about her performance, those have all been, like, squashed. And it's, like, so funny because before the series started, I couldn't really picture Bella as Ellie, and now I can't picture anyone else doing it, like, outside of, obviously, Ashley Johnson's Ellie in the game. But, like, I couldn't picture another live-action version of that. And that just speaks to how incredible she's been. And it's another episode where she just blew me away. And I can't say enough great things about her. She was absolutely incredible in this episode. They really could have had something better with Troy. Man, he's got so much talent. Troy is one of my favorite people on Earth. And I'm so glad that he got the chance to go in this show. But I was so excited for the Troy Baker episode. And then, like, you know, and Troy has, like, great hair, too, right? He's got a great head of hair. And he's got great acting. He's like a really like passionate, emotional guy. And I feel like they just gave him like the most boring cookie cutter, like for a right-hand man to David. I don't know, man. And he kind of questioned David a little bit, but like it was just for like the medicine kind of. And I would have liked to see a more back and forth that, or like him like really pushing back on David. He kind of just was like, David's like, I need you with me. And he's like, oh, okay. And I don't know, man. I would have really, really liked more from Troy, knowing how proficient of an actor he is. So I was so excited, and I think he was kind of my biggest disappointment for this episode, to be honest. All right, guys, well, that's it. That's another episode in the book. So we have just one more, guys. I Can't Be For Nothing. We still have one particular scene that I'm looking forward to that I hope they nail. And I feel like there's still a lot, though, to go. Like, I'm a little worried. I don't know how long the next episode is, but I'm a little worried that they're going to feel rushed next week, too. For the most part, guys, it's been an excellent show, an incredible show. And if anything, I get really excited to see what they're going to do with Season 2. And like I said, Season 2, The Last of Us 2, my favorite game of all time, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think it's an incredible masterpiece and unbelievable game, but I know it's very divisive, and I know people don't love the pacing in that game, and I know people don't love certain characters in that game, so I'm really, really curious to see not only how this season wraps up, and guys, the ending of Last of Us, for those of you who don't know, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending of The Last of Us Part 1, the game, is like one of the best endings to any game ever. Or media, really. It's incredible. I'm really curious to see next week if they change that ending at all. And I don't think they should. But I'm curious to see if they like take a hard left like they did with like the Bill and Frank thing. So changing something for a side character and changing the ending of your game when your ending is so renowned is interesting, but also maybe they want to stand out from the game a little bit, but they got to respect their roots. But they have. This show has done a great job of like showing the fans like we know where we came from. So super excited, guys. I'm going to miss the hell out of the show when it's gone until Season 2, and it's probably going to be a lengthy production value, especially with the success of the show. I'm sure they're going to want to go bigger and crazier for season 2. And again, there's a lot more interest, I think, in season 2 now that the show is a hit and they know that people are going to tune in. They're probably going to put a little more love and effort into season 2. Not that there hasn't been love and effort in season 1, but appreciate you stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, guys.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, can't deny that view.